everybody. Welcome into another episode of Back to You with Panger and Niner. I'm KT. And Panger, I mean, first of all, we're both very dressed up today, but look at you with the suit and tie. That's no Johnny O's, buddy.
No, I
You're
know.
looking good.
Sorry, Johnny, old buddy, but I'm at a big function here. Just had a team picture here with the Blackhawks, with everybody involved, and we've got a Blackhawk alumni has done a scholarship luncheon for, I think, since 1988 or 89. And Keith Magnuson, the late Keith Magnuson, started it. So every year, the alumni give out 3 scholarships. So today's the luncheon right here. The Blackhawk players show up at it. The management shows up at it. Danny Wirtz, who's obviously the chairman and CEO of the Chicago Blackhawks. I mean, when I first went in 1988 or 89 and was part of the first scholarship thing, I think Danny was like 12. So it's really neat right now to be with this group, and it's a special time and 3 really worthy recipients. So that's the reason why I've got the shirt and tie on.
I thought it was for us for once. I wasn't really sure, but hey.
I am trying to, let's bring this level up a little bit. You know what I mean?
And KT, look how beautiful you look today.
Well, thank you. Yes, I'm all dolled up for TV this afternoon. Yes, I am currently at the NHL Network. I am in Dave Reed's office, actually. That's why there's all this amazing sports memorabilia behind me. So sitting in his room, recording our Back to You podcast. So no Johnny O's attire today. However, you guys can all get in on the Johnny O's fun. Johnny O, the Back to You March discount, 15% off. You go to johnny-o.com. Go on there. They have a brand new women's line. It's amazing. I love it. I've been wearing it all the time and getting a lot of compliments. So thank you to our friends at Johnny O's. But yeah, we're excited. So it's Women in History Month, guys. Obviously the month of March. A great month to celebrate the amazing women all around us, our moms, our grandmothers, our sisters, our aunts, and of course, women in media and sports and entertainment. And so I thought it would be great today to bring on our good friend, Christine Simpson from Rogers Sportsnet. And Panger, I know you've known Christine, you've known her brothers, you've known the whole family for a long, long time. So this will be a real treat for us.
Oh, this is going to be outstanding. She is just, she's adorable. She's a great person. She's great at what she does. She's, been a pioneer too.
There she is.
Keep going.
There you go, Christine. And she has been a pioneer in the reporting and just as a host and treats people so well. So Christine, it's so great to have you here.
God.
And we're not blowing smoke here. We're just telling the truth. That's all.
And right back at you, and I mean it, you two are 2 of my favorite people in all of hockey. So I'm absolutely honored to be with you today.
Oh, well, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you're really busy and, we have so much we want to talk to you about, but I just kind of started the introduction, Christine, talking about, March is obviously a very celebratory month for women. It's Women in History Month. You've been doing a lot with regards to that too, but I just want to talk about your career because I remember, when I was young and coming up in the business and, you're not much older than me, but I aspired to, and I looked up to you because I was watching hockey games. You were on Versus at the time. Yeah. And, but I know your career didn't always start with the broadcast perspective, right? Like you were doing other work that kind of led you into broadcasting. Can you share with our listeners?
Absolutely. And you know what, it's so wonderful now that there are so many more young girls and women who are looking to get into this industry. But I always say the same thing. We're like, well, how do you do it? Well, everyone's path is different. And mine was certainly that. It really began, honestly, by growing up in a hockey family. I was the middle sister between 2 hockey playing brothers. And because of that, I was dragged to rinks my entire youth. But I loved it. I mean, that is where my love of hockey and really my knowledge of hockey began, just by being around the rink. But fast forward then, like even when I was at university, I went to Western in London, Ontario, and still wasn't really thinking of, certainly not, hockey broadcasting, just because there really weren't. We watched Hockey Night in Canada every Saturday night, but there were no women that I could see and go, I want to do that. But found my way through kind of working in marketing and PR. And it really kind of started to come together when I worked at the Hockey Hall of Fame. So in 1992, I was hired by the Hall to be their marketing manager. And so finally combined my love of hockey with what my sort of educational background was. Little did I know that the opportunities that I had within that job would lead me to television. I was often the one that, because when we opened, the new Hockey Hall of Fame back in 93 at Young and Front, we had media from all over the world coming in to do stories on this brand new Hall of Fame. So I would sort of be pushed out. Oh, Chris, there's another camera crew here. Can you walk them through the hall and sort of tell them all about it? I'm like, sure. I'm talking about something I'm passionate about and I know a lot about. So by virtue of doing that, I just got very comfortable in front of a camera and would have producers say, have you ever thought of, doing this for a living, being in broadcast? I'm like, oh no, I didn't take broadcast journalism school. I couldn't do that. But you know what? You can find your way into it. And then from that, the Maple Leafs hired me as their first in-arena host. That was 1995 at Maple Leaf Gardens. You know it well, Darren Pang. And so again, got more comfortable with a microphone in my hand, being in front of a live audience. But if Sportsnet, I still say, if Sportsnet hadn't launched a brand new network back in 1998 and were kind of looking for, new people, giving others a chance, I don't think I would have ended up in this profession.
It's amazing. I'm just, I always, to go back to what you said off the top, the fact that, there is a different path for everybody. And I get asked that question a lot too. Like, how do you get into this business? And now, my gosh, I don't even know the answer because I got into the business 21 years ago and it was like, send this thing called a tape to all these small market towns. Now with like Instagram and social media, there's so many other ways to brand yourself and market yourself. But, looking back at all the years and everything you've done in hockey, Christine, I'm just curious, like, what would you say has been the key to longevity in this industry? Because it is wild. You've changed networks and like we all have, there's highs and lows in this business. What is the key to longevity?
Well, first of all, I think you genuinely need to be passionate about what you're doing. And it's easy for me to say that because I know you are as well, because you're right. There are times where it's like, really, does this profession really love me? Because it doesn't seem like it right now. But it was just never even a thought to go and do something else. So I think you need to love it. You need to obviously have a work ethic that you will work hard. This is, as we all know, not a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job. I mean, we work weekends, that we work 7 days a week. But also just be a good human being. Be the kind of person that people want to be around. And for the part of it that I play, I interview hockey players and people within the game. Well, if if they're not comfortable speaking to you, you're not going to get a good interview. So you need to be genuine. You need to be authentic. And if you are your true self and that happens to come through and people tend to go, oh, I will trust telling my story to that person because I've seen them. I've grown a relationship with them either from watching me interview other people or just from having gotten to know them through the years that I have been in this industry. Because, if you're someone people don't want to be around, I don't think you're going to last too long in this industry or any industry, really.
No, you're right about that, Chris. And the gentleman on the screen here, a third part of Back to You is Craig Connolly. And I introduced Craig to you because I'm not sure if you know him, but when you did this unbelievable interview with Charles Barkley, I think maybe during COVID, Charles mentioned that he had 3 favorite hockey players. And he mentioned one, and the guy's name was Craig Connolly. And I think the look on your face said it all. That's Craig Connolly right
the
there.
Legend. I finally meet you.
You finally got a chance to meet me. Actually, I had the luxury of meeting you back in the early 2000s during the World Cup in Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
I actually worked with Panger and the late, great Bruce Connell at ESPN.
Oh, that's great. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, we brought Craig. Craig was a college hockey player, but we liked the way he organized the bars afterwards and the way he could spot
he knows
things.
His true calling, right?
But he was
exactly.
Stay in your lane.
He's got a good hockey mind, and so we used him as a kind of a spotter first on Niner, and then he's morphed into much more than that all around. And he's with the UFC and Chris, Bruce Connell. How many playoffs did we have with our group and your group? Either on Hockey Night or Sportsnet, and our group at ESPN, we'd all be together at all times, and Bob Cole and Harry Neal and everybody getting together. So much fun.
So many great saying that, Panger, because I've been wanting to talk to you, Christine, for so long since that interview, just to say, here I am.
I'm that guy.
Yes.
But like when Charles said those names, were you like, he says Craig Connolly, you're like, okay, I know everyone in hockey over the last 100 years. I don't remember that name. Were you like, uh-oh?
Yeah, I'm kind of on that
sounds familiar, but
But yeah, but hey, any friend
Let's
of
not
Charles
follow up on Craig Conley.
is a friend of ours. Absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. It's so great to see you, Craig.
Well,
You too.
and Christine, you were just talking about the interviews that you do, and just recently, I mean, can you imagine when you guys started the fight to be not a fight, but the battle to get on the air to be a female in a male-dominated, especially the hockey world, and now you just recently did an interview, if I'm not
That's
mistaken,
right.
with Kate Madigan, who's now the assistant GM of the
Absolutely.
New Jersey Devils. So now you're interviewing, managerial types.
Yes.
Cami Granato stepped in first
Yeah.
with Seattle, and now she's with
Vancouver.
Vancouver. I mean, I could go on and on and on at the list, but how was that? How was that interview for International Women's Day, and just how proud of you
Of the woman.
of the females,
Yeah.
the woman of today
Well,
that
as
get
we
in that
said,
position?
back when I started at
Phenomenal.
Sportsnet in 1998, even the thought of interviewing a woman who was probably involved in any aspect, let alone management of an NHL team, would have been absolutely unheard of. So it was so wonderful to be able to have a choice of a number of women that are working within management of NHL teams for that particular day.
Yeah.
And Kate, again, when you talk about everyone has their story, everyone has their path, and Kate Madigan, same thing. I mean, her degree was in accounting and business administration. It was though through her dad, Jim Madigan, who was a scout for the Pittsburgh Penguins, that she was going to hockey as a young girl and really thinking, this is pretty cool. I think I could find my way. And she has found her way. Not only that, but I really appreciated that the Devils gave us access like I've never had before. I mean, we literally followed Kate that day. Every meeting she had, and it just was a good day. She had a lot of meetings. They had a company-wide meeting. And so I think I've had so many people say to me actually since watching that piece, I didn't really understand what the role of an assistant general manager entailed. And from that piece, it certainly gave an idea to a lot of people. It kind of includes everything. And depending on what your background is, it's going to include a number of different things. But yeah, just to be able to shine a spotlight on Kate for International Women's Day. But the beauty of it, we don't have to just do those stories on International Women's Day. We can do them anytime, and that there are more women to be able to profile. But that was a pretty special one for me.
It's amazing what she's done in New Jersey. I love her story, and I've read about it. And then just you mentioned the feature this morning to me, so I went back and watched it. It's just a tremendous job by you. But I mean, this is what you do, Christine, and I think it goes back to what you were saying about having people trust you and want to share valuable information with you. And I've seen it over the years with a number of the player features you've done. The way players open up, even in very vulnerable moments. I mean, I remember the sit down you did with Nate Thompson and his then wife, about the struggles he was going through, and so. Talk to me about these features, because that's really become a huge part of what you're doing right now with Rogers Sportsnet. And I just find it to be so interesting because you get behind the scenes access to these guys that no one else gets.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is all about humanizing these players, they are human beings. And in so many ways, some of my favorite features, and actually Nate Thompson is a great example, in so many of my stories that I like to be able to tell, we're actually not even talking about hockey. We are talking about real life. And that is a great example of a story where, I had done, Nate was with the Montreal Canadiens at the time, and I was doing rinkside reporting, so had done a lot of games with Nate. So again, there just seemed to be a comfort level. And I happened to notice one game, and actually he and I share the same birthday. I was following him on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
And so October 5th. And so I saw, though, he was celebrating his sobriety. And like you said, the ideas come from anywhere. I followed him on Instagram, saw that he was celebrating his sobriety, and approached him and just said, would you be comfortable to share that story? And I think for him, it was an important part of his sobriety is to tell his story, to have people see that, okay, I might be a famous hockey player making all this money, but you know what? I've had struggles, I've had challenges, and I hit rock bottom. And so anyone else out there, and I know I got a lot of feedback from people. I know he got a lot of feedback from people just thanking him for sharing his story, for being vulnerable, which we don't think of athletes wanting to necessarily be. Like they just want to show how strong they are. Right. But I think I love when they do decide, you know what, I think by telling my story, I can help other people. And that's just one example of someone who did. So I'm always so appreciative. And I think then if people do see stories like that, then they understand that I am only there to help them share their stories. I don't have a hidden agenda. I am not looking for a gotcha story. It's more, hey, do you have something that you want to share with people out there? And if so, I am happy to help you share your story.
Well, for 30 years, you've been helping the Easter Seals as well. And that's such a big part of Canada and the Conn Smythe Sports Celebrities Dinner. That's been an amazing run for you. So, not only helping out with the Nate Thompson story, or so many stories that humans have to dive right in there and honestly not sell their soul, but bring their soul to life, which is incredibly difficult for anybody to do. You bring it out, but how about your relationship with Easter Seals, and who are you honoring this year?
Thanks so much, Darren. Yeah, Easter Seals obviously is an organization here in Canada that helps kids with physical disabilities, and I have been on the volunteer committee member for over 30 years. This year, we're going to be celebrating Daryl Sittler, someone near and dear to my heart and to many hearts, certainly in the Toronto area. And the beautiful part of it is we are also going to have Lanny McDonald and Tiger Williams there as well.
Oh, wow.
And for Leafs fans of a certain era, those are the big three and the best of friends. So we're looking forward to that at the end of March 27th. And like every year, we've celebrated so many different Canadian sports athletes. And Kathryn, I need to thank you. Remember the year you helped me get Doug Flutie to come up?
Yes.
Wow.
It was great. We were honoring Pinball Clemens at the time, who was a great teammate of his when Doug was up here with the Toronto Argos. So, yeah, I'm really excited about
Daryl Sittler, the chauffeur for the All-Star game, or was that Daryl Sittler number 27?
Wasn't that funny? I loved that. Oh, I know, that was great. And I got to say, I think us in Toronto, the All-Star game, and I've been to many. It was so fun having it back here in Toronto, and the city was a buzz. It was just, and Justin Bieber, I'm sorry, the highlight, that jacket behind the bench. I mean, come on. That was a lot of fun.
I was going to ask you, that must have been like your Super Bowl, having that event, the way the hospitality surrounding it, the celebrities, it was the NHL did a tremendous job, but also the people of Toronto, you have to give credit to that as well. The fans up there, as we know, are diehards, but it must have been really special for you right in your backyard. Once.
It was exactly, not to have to travel for a weekend, but
exactly.
Yeah, right.
And to have Justin Bieber give a concert, too. I was lucky enough to be able to go to that. First time he had sang in a number of years. But the other highlight was the PWHL, the 3-on-3 showcase, to have the women there and to have them be such a huge part of it. That's been one of my favorite stories of this entire year is the PWHL. I was there at Mattamy Athletic Center, the old Maple Leaf Gardens, on January 1st for the inaugural game. And since then, isn't it amazing? Like every week, they seem to be breaking another attendance record. The support is just huge. I cannot wait to see what happens this fall when they finally kick off their first full season.
That's got to, fans have got to continue to support it. Sponsors have to continue to support it. That's the way you get longevity, and that's the way you get consistency. And sometime soon they'll be retiring sweaters, and they'll hopefully be there for a long time.
Absolutely.
And the other thing about the PWHL is that it's grittier. Like it's grittier. Like it's like they're leaning in. It's not like when I remember watching I think my first Olympics '98 in Nagano, where Cami Granato, the captain of the USA, unbelievable final against Canada, and USA ends up winning that. But it wasn't that type of contact then, not at all. And so when I watched a period and a half of one game and I flipped over and I saw another, I was like, whoa, this is, for me, I was like, this is great stuff. Like
they're mixing it up. They're mixing it up really good.
They are mixing it up. These women, they are so competitive, and of course they are. But I think that's been a surprise for people. It's like, wow, they'll go after each other, and it's like, okay, that's the way. That's good hockey to be watching.
That's exactly right, because that's what fans they don't want the girls to go out there and just start not playing intelligent hockey. But they enjoy the compete of it. Like there's been some mundane games in the NHL during the regular season that you're like, come on, guys, let's just give a darn here. Let's just go a little bit harder. And so I've been really impressed with how they've started. Yeah, it's going to be good playoffs.
Yeah. Yep.
It is going to be a good play. Speaking of, I mean, I know you get busy this time of year, Chris, doing like a bunch of features and doing on like pre-playoff shoots and kind of deciding, all right, who do we want to go to? Who do we want to profile in the early goings of this, the start of the playoffs? So can you give us a glimpse into the crystal ball? Like anybody on your wish list that you'd love to sit down and talk to this postseason?
Oh, so many, it's so, and you know how much fun it is these days. We're like checking the standings every day.
I can make
right
it.
Now,
Christine, I can make it. I'll get to Toronto. I know I'm probably top 5, but anyway.
The exclusive.
Yeah.
So it's all to do with the matchups, first of all, like who's going to be playing who. And some of those are pretty locked in. Like we can usually assume here in Toronto that the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to play each other. So I mean,
much.
Brad Marchand, he has become the leader of that team since Patrice Bergeron has left. I was lucky last season to do a piece on Linus Ullmark, he and Jeremy Swayman, the bromance there between the two goals.
Yeah.
But I feel like, to spend some time with Brad and just his evolution too, when you talk about a great player, but I feel like now being the true leader of that team, like we're seeing a different place, still very competitive, but not necessarily the antics that we have seen in the past. And of course, our Canadian teams, when you think of the Vancouver Canucks, holy Rick Tocchet, what has he done to the team? And of course, always the Edmonton Oilers when you've got McDavid, Draisaitl, Zach Hyman. I loved Zach Hyman as a player here in Toronto. His family home is about 10 minutes from my house. I remember doing a piece on him at his home. He took me up to his childhood bedroom where he wrote his first children's book. And now he's 3 or 4 that he's written. And he's on track for hopefully scoring 50 goals, which would be amazing for him. Where's number 18 for the Oilers, which my brother Craig did too when he scored 50 goals. So there's a little bit.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so I don't know. There's so many stories. It's more, okay, let's throw them all out. And as we get closer to, because I feel like often it comes to the last day of the regular season.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly who is in. But as you know, and then each round we'll figure out, okay, who do we want to sit down again with before the next round starts? So it is the most wonderful time of the year. And I'm sure that's
fantastic. And you mentioned your brother, Craig. He had some unbelievable hands. The other brother, Dave in London, was a pretty darn good player as well. Played against him. Yes, that was it was different player than Craig, huh?
Very much so. But Panger, you will appreciate he still holds the London Knights records for most points in a season. And when you see all the players who have gone through the London Knights, from Corey Perry to Patrick Kane to Nazem Kadri, I mean, so many. John Tavares was there for a while, and he still holds the record. So,
what is the record, Chris? Is it's a hot? It was,
shouldn't I?
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Yeah,
I mean,
it would have been the year he was Canadian Major Junior Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's quite an accomplishment. Boy, oh boy. Were you, Christine? Were you a good player?
I had.
So this is the irony of, and Kathryn, it was lovely that you said I'm just a little older than you. I'm much older than you.
You're really not. You're not.
Young at heart. Okay. When I was a young girl, I played every sport except for hockey. It really kind of wasn't. I mean, there would have been some little girls' leagues, I guess, but it was never like really an organized competitive sport. When I played baseball, I played volleyball, I was on the track team, and obviously I skated. But it certainly wasn't, oh yeah, of course I'm going to play hockey. So no, I guess I've just lived vicariously through my brothers. But I have nieces now who have played. Girls hockey has just exploded, and now with the PWHL, I'm sure even more
I would
so.
for sure thought I would have bet definitely the over on you being stuck in the net with some Sears catalogs on your legs and the boys just firing those hard orange balls,
taking shots from our brothers.
You know who that was? Because Craig's the baby. He's the youngest in our family. So it would have been me and Dave firing shots on him in the basement or in the driveway. You stick the little brother in, he's the one who has to play net while we're firing pucks at him.
I love it. I love it. What's it like, working with your brother too? I know you guys are always on different assignments, but I would imagine sometimes you overlap. It must be kind of cool that you guys are both, in this TV hockey world up in Canada.
It is fun. You know what? It's a lot of fun because I can also pick his brain. I mean, you all know if you're doing a game or doing an interview, it's always, if it happens to be someone that Craig, like a coach that Craig used to play with, or a player, like he'll see a player in a different. I'm the first to say I'm no analyst. I'm not going to break down a play. It's more the human side I want to hear, but I always love to get his perspective on things too, because it can be helpful or a little nugget. I'll never forget, though, one of the coolest things I did when I was with Versus, as you mentioned, the U.S. cable network, when they had the rights. There was a time where Craig left broadcasting to be an assistant coach with the Edmonton Oilers, when Craig McTavish was the head coach and Kevin Lowe was the GM. And I remember doing a game, it would have been the 2006 playoffs. The Oilers were playing the Detroit Red Wings in the first round. They had just snuck into the playoffs. And so with Versus, as a rinkside reporter, I would always have to interview an assistant coach at intermission. Well, don't you know, I interviewed the assistant coach, Greg Simpson. And I'll never forget that.
What a moment.
It would have been Doc Emmerich throwing down to us, and here's our boy Simpson. So we do a straight up interview like I would with any assistant coach, and I throw it back up to Doc. And I remember him saying, and for those of you at home wondering if there's a bit of a resemblance there, brother and sister.
That's so funny. In only Doc's way, he could say that too, right? Oh my gosh.
How cool. What a moment.
That was
the other
cool.
part of it is it's hard to compete with how nice his hair is. So you would have he might have the best hair in hockey for sure in broadcast, and there's no doubt.
And it never moves. It
never moves.
Lots of hairspray.
Kind of Carrie Fraser-esque, right? Back in the day.
Yeah.
I got it. That's so funny. That must have been a fun moment for, your mom and your family to watch as well at that point.
Absolutely. And the other one, though, I remember the first Heritage Classic, the outdoor game, because they celebrated the 25th anniversary.
Montreal,
I think it was recent.
and Edmonton.
And so for Edmonton, they had the alumni game before the game, because that was the toque that Jose Theodore had in the game over top of his goalie helmet. But that was pretty cool because I jumped on the ice after the morning skate and interviewed Craig with Wayne Gretzky, because Wayne came back. It was the first time we'd seen him on the ice again since he had retired. And it's like, okay, that's a pretty cool moment. I mean, I interviewed Wayne many times, in the final year of his career after retiring in 1999. But to have the two of them together for such a monumental occasion, that first outdoor game was pretty cool too.
There's another element. If I'm not mistaken, and you can correct me, but wasn't Mark Messier still playing in the NHL?
Yes.
And he came to the Heritage Classic to play in the alumni game?
He did. He was still playing for the Rangers. The NHL gave him permission to current player to come to Edmonton to play in the alumni game. It was crazy, but it was so much fun. I remember, again, I'm there as a broadcaster, but I'm also there as a family member. And those Oiler teams, Craig came to the Oilers in 87. So he was part of two Stanley Cups there in 88 and 90. Those Oiler teams were so close, but it wasn't just the players, it was the families. Like I would come to visit Craig and we would end up after the game with the Messiers. And I mean, Mr. and Mrs. Messier and Mary Kay. That's when I first met Mark's sister, Mary Kay. Like moms, dads. Janet was Janet Jones then before they got married. It was a real family. Like you really got to know the whole group. It was a close group of guys. And that sort of extended to the families as well.
Well, when Wayne got traded to LA, wasn't Craig at his house in LA when all that happened?
He was. Craig had just gone to London to our family home that summer, like to have a bit of a vacation. And I'll never forget, Wayne called to say, Simmer, you need to come to LA. And he's kind of like, oh, okay, Wayne, that's nice of you. But I was sort of going to spend time with the family. And he's like, no, Simmer, you need to come out here. So Wayne picks him up from the airport and basically tells him on the drive in, I'm about to get traded. So Craig was there for all of it. He was at the conferences with Janet, like listening in the background. They were staying at Alan Thicke's house. I remember that because there's a picture Craig has of basically Wayne in the backyard of Alan Thicke's house with an LA Kings jersey on for the first time, kind of going like, this is crazy. He was there for all of it. And, Wayne was always that guy. Craig was a young guy. He had just gotten traded. But I think Craig, he knew, Craig is going to be a leader of this team at some point. And so he was always that guy that wanted to bring people in. And I think it was just important for him to have him around to sort of be able to say his goodbyes. But for Craig to be part of such a historic occasion.
History.
He was a part of history. Absolutely. He saw it all unfolding before his eyes.
And only Wayne Gretzky he just thought of everything, didn't he? And doesn't he? He still does to this day.
Still does.
Right?
Yeah.
Thinks of everything. Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's such a great story. When, Chris, with your brothers involved in hockey, and obviously, that certainly helps, but we're talking about Wayne supporting people. Like, who has been somebody, I always say it's great to have female allies, no question, but it's also very important for us to have male allies as well as we embark in this crazy male dominated industry and grind every single day. So who were some of the men that really helped, kind of put you underneath their wing and show you the ropes a little bit?
Well, I've got to say, I'm pretty lucky. The man who hired me at Sportsnet, Scott Moore, has been a television executive over the years. And for him to even just give me that opportunity, I will forever be grateful for him. But even people like John Shannon, Nick Kyrgios, right? Like a lot of Doug McLean, a lot of the men that I worked with who, also brought me on board and made me feel like you're as much a part of this team as anyone. And that's all anyone wants, right? You don't want to be seen as different. You each bring your own differences to it. Like, you're good at this and you're good at that. But I don't know if this is the right thing to say, but I always felt like just one of the guys, which is kind of the nicest thing you could say. Now, to your point, Kathryn, what I love is that there are more female colleagues that I've had the beauty of being able to work with, and you're always there for each other. You want to lift each other up. But at the beginning, when, I was one of the only often in a dressing room, it was just the respect that I was given by my colleagues and senior executives that I'll always be grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
I say this with all seriousness as the decorum. What's this proper way? Okay, I'll say this. Men's language, the way that men talk, which, as we all know, we come from the locker room. We are bold. We swear a lot. But has that part of it changed and become more respectful over the last 10, 5, 7 years? I don't know.
Would say I think the funniest part of it, because, back in the day, the dressing room was that one room. So I was used to having guys like completely naked or maybe with a towel walking through and through. And I would often have people, the irony is I think they were often more awkward about it than I was, because, Kathryn, if it's, post game, you need to get that interview. You need to get those clips from somebody, because that would have been what I was doing then, as opposed to as many of the sit downs. You're kind of focused on, all right, he scored 2 goals. I need to get to him. Need to get, microphone over to that guy, and you're there to do your job. Now it's so different. They all have rooms beyond the rooms, and they've all got their Under Armour and this and that. So it definitely has changed. I do find, because I've been around guys, be it my brothers or others. I would have often players swear and then go, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I'm like, you know what? This is your inner sanctum. I am here to do my job, and as long as you're respectful of me, that's fine. But if you're mad because you've lost or something's going on, you don't need to apologize for me. This is the job that I signed up for, and as long as they're not disrespecting me, and I've been pretty fortunate. I have not felt disrespected or terribly awkward in situations much at all. But it's because you sort of have to know what you're getting into, know that you're in the inner sanctum. And as long as you respect what I am there to do, I respect that you are letting us into your inner sanctum to be able to do our jobs, basically.
I'm gonna end one more thing on the story about this, KT, because I'll forget this whole thing. But
Yeah, all
my
good.
my kind of caps off to who I think is a Hall of Famer, Lisa Seltzer, producer director of the Chicago Blackhawks for all those years, and beyond that, NBC and
absolutely.
Versus and whatever, and the Anaheim
Yes,
Ducks.
I worked many games
Exactly.
with
She
her.
started,
Yeah.
and I remember there was two females in particular when I was playing in the NHL, and it was odd because in the minors there was no females anywhere. You just walked wherever you wanted in these minor league locker rooms. And then I was in a room, and I believe it was Sherry Ross that was doing she was the analyst
Mm.
on New Jersey Devils radio, and she worked her
Yep.
tail off. She worked like she was an analyst. She got in there. And but I remember one time I came out and I had no gear on, and I'm like, "Whoa!" Like I was like, "Whoa!" I gotta,
Right.
And then there was I think Helene Elliott,
I was going to
Yeah,
say,
Helene. Yeah.
another one,
Harry
and
Ross,
yeah,
those are ones that paved the
they
way. Absolutely.
great
So what
professionals
they,
and gained the respect of everybody
yeah,
really quickly. Everybody knew right away they were in there to do their job, and once you got over the hey, this is our locker room, and why are there females
Right.
there when I got no gear on? So then you just learn
yeah.
how to come out of these.
Well, and in the early days when Harold Ballard owned the Toronto Maple Leafs, he wouldn't
Yeah.
let women in there. So, for me to think of like the Mary Ormsbys and the Rosie DeManos and the Christy Blatchfords here in Toronto, they had to put up with a lot more than I did by the time I came around in 1998. So hats off to the women before me who paved the way as well.
Yeah, for sure. No question. I always looked up to Jackie McMullen, and I was a young 22-year-old in the Boston area covering the Patriots and the Red Sox and working for NBC 10 in Providence. And I remember Jackie was, longtime Boston Globe columnist. I mean, just knew the drill. And Karen Gragian and Alice Cook also were part of the Boston media. But I remember just staring at them in the Patriots locker room. Like the first time I went in there, I told my photographer, I said, I'm going to stare at you until you tell me that guy's at the locker and I can turn around it. But like, don't feel awkward. I'm going to stare you in the eyes because I don't want to be perceived as looking at anything else in this locker room. It's my first time. And they're all probably looking at me like, is she going to screw this up? But
Yeah.
I paid close attention to what those women were doing, how they were handling themselves, how they were carrying themselves. And those are the women, to your point, Chris, paving the way and making it possible for us and the next generation. And now it's like, it's not even a question. I mean, there's women everywhere in sports, which is just really great to see.
Yeah. And when you think of one of the highlights, I will say, of my career happened March 8th in 2020, International Women's Day.
Yeah.
And you'll appreciate it because we did our first ever all-female broadcast of an NHL game that day.
Yep.
It was in Calgary against the Vegas Golden Knights, myself, Leah Hextall, and Cassie Campbell-Pascal. And I know you were a part of one in the States.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. The wonderful thing too, it wasn't just, okay, let's create like this one-off. It was more, no, I do this job, Cassie does that job, Leah does this job. We had a female director and a female producer. They were doing their jobs. We just happened to come all together to do the same broadcast that day. And I just love that now. I mean, that happens on an ongoing basis, depending. We've got Jen Botterill on the desk on Hockey Night in Canada every Saturday night. It's just wonderful to see more and more women in all different positions, and normalizing it. So, there aren't kids going, what is that woman doing? She doesn't know what she's talking about. Actually, yes, she does.
Yeah.
And young girls are watching her and saying, oh, maybe I want to do that when I grow up someday.
Yeah, I've got Jennifer on many
Exactly.
TNT games, maybe probably 30% of the games, and I'm down between the benches. She's up top, and I look at it as I've got 5 little granddaughters under the age of 4.5. All this is maybe it's right now for so many people, but you just think down the road how influential this is going to be and how normal it's going to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Normal.
Normalizing it.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Well, Chris, we've taken up so much of your time, but we are so grateful that you carved out some time for us, and it's always great to see you and talk to you. I hope I get to see you in the postseason now, somewhere down the road. We sometimes connect at NHL award shows or whatever it might be. So looking forward to that and giving you a big hug. But thank you so much. You just are such a trailblazer, and it's really great to talk to you and hear your stories.
Well, it was my honor and pleasure to talk. I feel like we could have kept talking for hours.
I know.
Hopefully we can do it.
Didn't have to host something.
Exactly. Hopefully we can do it in person too. And everyone, keep doing the great job that you're doing. And
you too. Keep up the great work.
Legend, Craig. This has been.
I am a legend. in my own mind.
The legend Craig Conley lives. I love it.
It's infamous.
Well,
It's amazing.
Christine, make sure that now that KT's back in NHL Network, that she buys the bottle of wine after the game when you guys
Absolutely.
I'm
there
sitting
you
in
go.
Dave Reed's office right now. I was saying before we joined it, this is Reader's office. All the sports. I don't have all this nonsense in my house.
There you go. No,
I would
and
sell the Pink Floyd thing in the back.
Thank you.
I love it.
Yeah,
that'll make you some
I'm
money.
looking forward to seeing you every day on
Thank
NHL
you.
Network.
Your
That
text
is-
I appreciate your
so
text
awesome.
and your support. Hockey people, I mean, it's great. It's great to be back in the space and, do some playoff games as well for TNT, and away we go, carve it back into my schedule. So it's been great. It's been great.
Here we go.
Thank
Stanley
you.
Cup playoffs. Looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
Thank you,
That's
Christine.
right. Thanks, Christine. Good to see you.
Love to see you.
Oh, that's awesome. I love her, you guys. I love her. Fangirl big time, but it is outstanding. And I remember the first time meeting her, I was totally starstruck. It was in Vegas at the awards, and I went down to the pool to get a little sun before whatever I had to do that night. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, she's sitting right next to me. She was right next to me. So I introduced myself and away we went with our friendship. But really and truly someone I've looked up to for a long, long time, just because she was in a space that when I never covered hockey growing up, I never played hockey. So, she was certainly the most visible person in the United States on Versus every single night watching hockey games, and just amazing what the career she's had. And I love what she said about just being kind and being genuine, because I think all three of us understand what that's all about.
Yeah, that's it. You're exactly right. And she has an incredible influence on how to get messages out there, because it's the way she is, the way she talks. Even in this interview, you think that she was, getting ready for prime time. The way
I know.
she speaks with such such a command, and unlike me, like proper grammar and everything. So
you'll get there, Panger. A couple more years in the business, you'll get there.
I know. You got
You'll get there.
No, but that was really great, and great for you. And it's but it's an important month, but it's kind of, I think every day is a great day for International Women's Day, or men or children or whatever. I think she's right. It's all about, treating people the right way, and she does it, and she's led by example her whole life. Well brought up, those Simpson kids, I tell you. Good families from London, Ontario.
All of that.
Huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Was that a little Bob Coleman?
Little grapes, little grapes right there, I tell you.
I love it.
You know what, Kathryn? It was great to hear like her story and how you looked up to her and where you're at today now, and how great of a job you're doing. And it's come full circle almost, and it's great to hear everything that she's involved with, some of those interviews that she's done.
Yeah.
I grew up watching, Hockey Night in Canada, like we mentioned, and then, I grew up watching her brother play at Michigan State. And, to finally meet her in 2004, I think it was World Cup. And like we said in the story there, it was just great to finally meet her and watch her over the years, and everything that she's done. So.
Well, hopefully we can get her back in the playoffs, because, again, she does amazing features on these players. And it's always great. I always find it interesting when you watch the features, being able to follow up with the journalist that conducted the interview, because there's so much behind the scenes that happens, that they can share and give you insight on. And I just, again, she does great sit downs with players. I love that she's got her eyes on Brad Marchand, because he's always a great interview subject. And just his story is remarkable. So we look forward to seeing whatever features she puts out there in the playoffs and all the work she's done. So, great to have her on. Recurring guest. I'm putting it out there. She'll be a recurring guest. I'm sure
you go.
Love it.
Absolutely. A regular.
All right,
we'll have to find a stipend for her. We'll have to find a little something on the side.
We're trying to find a stipend for ourselves. So let's. Oh,
that's a good point.
Let's work on that. Speaking of, we do have a lot of support from Johnny O's, from Mura. So again, those that want to get in on all the new women's gear for Johnny O's, you can get it for 15% off. Actually, all men's and women's gear, but I'm promoting the women's gear because I love it and it's brand new. It just came out in March. You can go to johnny-o.com and enter the back to you. That's back, the number 2 and you, March, all one word, for 15% off. And of course, we have to thank our friends at Mura as well. They have a 15% off discount. Golf season in the Northeast where I live is literally right around the corner. I think it's going to be 70 today. I'm in studio. I don't know, but I think it's supposed to be 70 degrees.
Wow.
A lot of people going out, test driving those clubs, getting the dust off. Mura is offering 15% for all of our Back to You listeners. Again, that is back, the number 2, you, and the number 15 for 15% off at muragolf.com. So just tremendous support.
Yeah.
our believers at Believe that have put us on all the audio platforms now. You can listen to us just about everywhere. So we're super grateful for everyone's support.
Yeah, that is for sure. Well said. Well said, KT. And yeah, get the clubs out. And in fact, the inside scoop for you, the CB 301s, great irons. I know you tested them all, KT, and I know Niner over there has got those 301s, but they are going to be the Charles Barkley 301s. Ooh. Is that right, Niner? Chuck's going
we're working on getting Chuck tested in tomorrow.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Friday.
Is he doing a true spec testing?
How do you like that?
He's doing true spec?
He's going to go get, he's going to go true spec, and nice. He wants some of those CBs, and we might customize them to CB34, but we'll see. Waiting to hear back from our good friend Bill Holowati, and he's trying to make it happen. And
well, there's
the last weekend. Well, the last weekend that Charles was back, and he goes, "I need to get in there. I need to get in." So let's do it.
That's great. Love it. Are you kidding me? Billy's just on the Vancouver Canuck bandwagon anyway.
Yes, he is.
And right there, and he and Talk are now buddies right now, and they're looking for a long run there in Vancouver to represent Canada. I mean, that's going to be coming up here as we get closer to the playoffs. I mean, who is going to represent Canada? Is this going to be the year? It's been since 1993 when the Montreal Canadiens beat Wayne Gretzky's Los Angeles Kings. It's been that
too long.
So, my goodness.
Too long. Well, coming up fast. So, great job, guys. Great to see you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Make sure you swipe up and subscribe. Make sure you like us on all of the platforms and give us some feedback. We'd love to hear what everybody thinks about Back to You. But that's it for now. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys next time. Have
a great day, guys.
Yeah, please do. And Niner, you have a great day, and keep up the great work on NHL Network.
Thanks,
KT.
Panger. Enjoy the Blackhawks event you've got. And I'm going into a production meeting now. So see you later.
Sounds good. Good timing, gang. Have a great day. Well, gang, on this show, we like to showcase an event or a story which caught our attention as it relates to an achievement featuring hard work and dedication of one's craft. That's exactly what Back to You is all about. This is powered by Miura Golf. And when you think of Miura Golf, you think of Katsuhiro Miura, the founder of Miura Golf, and he's mastered the art of steel. Take a look at this. That's hand forged, baby, right there. That's what this is all about. Every forged club is handcrafted at the factory in Himeji, Japan, where Miura's meticulous process and attention to detail highlight the family's unwavering pursuit of perfection. And if that isn't Back to You, I don't know what is.